Hello everyone, and thank you for choosing Two Pagans in a Pod podcast. If you live in the Great Lakes area, please join the Discord. If you are in Michigan, specifically the Southwest Michigan area, join the Facebook group at Heathens, Wiccans, and Pagans of Southwest Michigan. If you live in Wisconsin, join Beard's Facebook group, Wisconsin Pagan Resources. And if you'd like to check out either of us on various social media platforms, all of the links for everything is down below in the description. Thank you for choosing Two Pagans in a Pod podcast. Hope you enjoy the show. Looks kind of awkward. Welcome everyone to Two Pagans in a Pod podcast. I am your host today, Fro Double G, and joining me is Beard.
The Beard.
How goes it, Beard?
It goes. Work is insanity right now.
I feel that. I'm pretty tired myself.
It's been consistent long days lately. Not super long days, mind you. Like, a lot of the time we are still getting out on time, but there's the crap and BS that I'm dealing with at work is just astronomical. I don't want to complain too much. I don't think anybody from my job listens to this podcast, but, you know.
I want to complain a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
This time of the year, my nose gets fucking plugged so bad. I know I complain throughout the winter, but this is the worst. So I apologize. I'll do my best not to sniffle. Just saying, it's going to happen. I apologize if it does. But I do have some great, wonderful news.
Oh.
I held my ritual.
Yes, I did see that you posted some pictures.
The Ostara one, we did cancel, but we ended up rescheduling and just did a general spring ritual. I was Ritual Gothi. So that was very interesting, my very first group ritual, and I led it. My buddy helped out. He ended up doing the hammer warding and the he basically did like half, honestly. So he also did the blessing of the beans, and then I did the bunny part, and then I did the runic egg part, and just like the extra little tidbits. We already went over all that, but yeah, he did a good chunk of it. It was really cool. We had, I think it was 9 adults total, 6 kids. So
it's not bad. That's
very,
pretty
very cool.
Decent turnout.
Yeah, I was impressed. Especially since I was kind of honestly just expecting, let's see, there's 5 in my family, so 5. You know what I mean? No, I knew some people would show up, but I wasn't. It was a good turnout. And did you see the video of the place we went to?
I didn't see the video. I did see your pictures, though.
Check that out real quickly. But I went to the place, right? And because the one it was initially planned at is like a larger park, but it has like pavilions and things and different little areas we can go. I was like, all right, we can pick one that's just kind of out of the way, off to the side. But it would have been a little more public. Well, rains came and just fucking flooded that, like damn near to the road. So like the whole park was underwater. So I'm like, okay, can't do it there. Obviously got to find a new place. Went and checked out another park, and I kind of forgot about it. And this one's like, it's off only like a mile in the country, like literally a mile out of the city limits. But it's out of the city limits, and it's right next to like this little bridge. And it, like literally, you just turn off the road that takes you out of the country, right? So it's like you are just off a semi-main road just a little bit, and it's got a drive that's a big circle, right? But in the circle around the drive is this nice little hill that kind of flattens up on top, and they have rocks surrounding the whole fucking thing. And I'm like, yo, we have a stone circle. Like I just pulled in and like I asked everyone as they got there like if they wanted to do it there or the field because the field was technically the park or down by the river a little bit more. But everyone was just like, "There's already a stone circle here, though, isn't there?" And it's like, yeah, there is, isn't there? Um,
Am I
yeah, I
blind?
think
I can't find your video.
I'll I'll tag you. Oh, it's under the actual event.
That might be why I can't find it.
Yeah, you
'Cause I'm
gotta
not
go.
looking at the event.
Yeah. But only thing I really messed up is we didn't actually do the casting of the circle with the wand. But I just didn't write it in the directions. It was something I thought about later. It's like, oh boy, we didn't do that. We still did like the hammer warding, and we declared that we were casting the sacred circle, right? We just never did the physical motion. We still had like a bell ringing. Oh, also, my cousin's kid, he's 7th grade. I was asking everyone. I'm like, hey, does anyone want to do anything? As far as like the bell needs to be rang a few times, we need to do a hammer warding. I was just offering up like any part anybody wants to do, feel free. Like I got links so everyone can read it real quickly, so everyone's feeling comfortable can be included as much as they wanted. But the 7th grader, my niece or my cousin's kid, is like, yeah, I'll ring the bell. Cool, why not? He's like, how do I do it? And I was just like, all right, well, when you hear us say I ring the bell, you ring the bell, and then we'll give you a little nod. And he's like, all right, yeah. So he ended up ringing the bell for us to cast the circle, and then in part of the, because I tried to, if I did a heathen thing, I tried to include a Wiccan thing right behind it. You know what I mean? Or like I'd do a heathen paragraph then a Wiccan paragraph, because it was kind of a split one. So like yeah, after we did the hammer warding, and then I talked about like I did a little paragraph and it's like we'll ring the bell once for this, ring the bell twice for this, ring the bell thrice for this, right? But it was very cool. I told my cousin like you should be proud of your kid for volunteering for that in front of a bunch of people. He did not know fucking about half the people there. Honestly, a lot of people
Awesome.
didn't know each other there. It was just, I was like the common denominator amongst everybody, but it was like my cousin knew one of the other group that showed up, and that was like it for people knowing each other. There was 2 other couples that like nobody knew each other. Yeah, but it was still cool. Even the one dude I met at work one time, I chatted with him for like 10 minutes at work, enough to be like, hey, you have a pentagram tattoo. Hey, what about this? He's like, hey, wearing a Mjolnir. Like, we just picked. We already talked about the looking pagan, right? We keyed on all the points real quickly, and I got him in the Facebook group, and like that's all we really chatted. And then he noticed I made the event. He's like, yo, I'd show up, but it's on a Sunday. And I'm like, hey, we can like you can change your shift. You know that, right? He's like, oh fuck, I forgot all about it. So he just did that, and he showed up, and I'm like, fucking A, right, bud? He ended up driving like an hour. I'm like,
oh wow,
yeah, but that was my key that I knew I did something I felt was satisfying for everyone, and that they liked, because the dude who drove an hour, even though it was like his first ritual and everything, left feeling like it was a good ritual and didn't like, wow, that was a waste of fucking time showing up. You know what I mean?
Right. That's cool. So, that's super cool.
And the fact that like it ended with like everyone going, so we want to plan another one? Do we want to do another one? We're going to try to make this more regular. Like everyone was just like, what about the next one? It's like, that's fucking makes me feel real good.
Oh, I bet.
But that's all I got from my rant. That was really fucking cool. Although it was really like, it is kind of a bit awkward, but yo, I was a Gothi for a ritual. Like,
I bet that's a really good feeling. I mean,
it is, but it's it's very weird feeling, right? Because imagine saying like this, you're like, I got to be a priest for a sermon. It's the same thing, right? It's the same thing, but it just like it feels weird to say, right? Even though we do treat our ceremony leadership, right? Our Gothies are different from priests, and in my opinion, and it seems a lot of people treat it that way, right? We don't have like they didn't went to their clergy service and paid their money to do the. Well, I guess some places do. Well, hold up.
Well,
I guess some.
There's there are the services out there, but they're so up and down here
Yeah.
and there. Like either any of the ones that I've ever seen that I ever considered were always just way too expensive, and it was like you have to drop like 3, 4, upwards of $500 sometimes, and I'm like, no, I'm not, no,
I
like
was just kind of going more with like just like the general vibe of how the community is when like you were to chat about it. I actually don't know. I guess some people might be a little more particular, right, about switching
right.
who the Gothi is and like no, they need to be trained. I haven't been to many groups. I just know what I see in Discords and online and things like that. What I've
That's fair.
heard.
That's fair.
So anecdotal. Yes, it is very anecdotal, but it seems that way to me. But anyways, we have to start off with a stanza. So I have Carrie Overton, Focus Ass, Hung in the Moon and Publishing Company. Study have them all right here. Yep. Watch the video on that.
And of course, I have the translated book, Liam Hollander. Blah 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 blah.
Yep. Why don't you go ahead and lead, Beard?
Yeah. All right. So we are on the 13th stanza, the stanza of 13. The Huron of heedlessness hovers o'er the feast and stealeth the minds of men. With that fowl's feathers fettered I was when I was Gunnloth's guest. That was a very painful mouthful.
I'm going to try to do each one of these the best I can. A bird of a mindfulness flutters o'er ale's feast, whiling away men's wit. With the feathers of that fowl I was fettered once, in the garths of Gunlod's bellow. That was from Bray. Next we have Thorpe's. Oblivion's heron. It's not Huron, by the way. It's heron. It's a bird. Oblivion's heron, 'tis called, that over potations hovers. He steals the minds of men. With this bird's pinions I was fettered in Gunlod's dwelling. Yes, Gunlod's instead of Gunlod this time. They are spelled differently. As the you've been practicing your Swedish up. It has the not the O, the O with the double dots above it. I forget what it's. Ah, not ah, O. I think it might be O. Anyways, bellows. Over beer the bird of forgetfulness broods, and steals the minds of men. With the heron's feathers fettered, I lay, and in Gunloth's house was held. How
All
are they
of those are
spelling this
epically
fucking dude's name different every time? It's someone's name. I don't give a shit. It's spelled one way. Like, my name is Jon.
Well,
You take it. No. There is no well. There's no well. You take my name in Swedish. It's Jon. That's how it's fucking spelled. Doesn't change. Doesn't fucking
but
change.
you have the one thing you have to remember is that in Old Norse, they didn't their th was that weird D
A
shape,
thorn.
and that makes the th sound for them. So when it's translated into other languages, sometimes it is translated with the th or it's translated with a d. So it depends on how the language does it. So like you'll see, because I've noticed that.
You know what, Beard? You know what, Beard? You're absolutely correct. That's like the one explanation. Because I do look up and I see it's the Old Norse translation and how it's Gunlodr. And okay. I'll cut a little bit of slack on whether it's Gunlod or Gunloths.
And that's the difficulty with the language there and translating it through different scopes and different translators, because some of them will translate it with the th and some with the d.
Why is one Gunlod and the other is Gunlod? That's my next question then.
Same thing with accents and things like that. with
I
you
know,
said, like the double dots over the O and stuff like that.
but it came from an A.
I'm not a language expert, so I
I know,
can't.
I know,
I
I
only know
know,
what I
I
know,
know.
and
This
those are
this.
minor
First
details.
off, this is exactly why reading the different ones is very very good and helpful, and partly why we kind of decided on it, right?
Right.
I had the 3, he had the 1. I'm like, fuck, we can cover the 4. The only one we're really missing is the one that's easy to understand is Crawford. And I'll stick behind it. Crawford is easy to understand. He's just easy to understand. He is. Well, reading these has its value because you can get. Well, I mean, just another perspective, right?
I think what makes it easy to understand is that he doesn't try to translate it into like proper English or like old timey English.
He doesn't try to
He
keep the
translates it.
poetic. He tries to
Yeah,
translate what he believes the message is. But in
yeah,
doing so, he can inject his own bias. So some people who say
it's
they
true.
don't prefer that and they don't want that because they think he's putting in his own bias, it is true. Even subconsciously, he will interject a little bit. Everyone does, even if he's doing his best not to. It's still his interpretation. It must go through the filter of him.
Very much so.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take over your rant right there.
No, you're good. Because I mean, the only additional thing I'll throw in there is like you see that same th or d or some of the other like O's and A's and ahs and oohs.
Oh,
You'll see them differently. Like that's why like you have Odin, then you have Othin, and then you have
Othin,
Odfin, and then you have
Woden,
then you have
Woden.
Woden. Yeah, you have all these, and the same with Thor. You have Thor, then you have Dor. Like you get into all of those things, and again, it's depending on what version of it, so to speak, that you're reading, and what the language for that translation was,
I
and how they
will say,
interpreted the language.
I do really like Tor, right? Where you almost say Tor, but like Tor, right?
Yeah,
And you gotta
that's
have
one of my
that like
favorite ways to say it too.
the slight roll on the R. I really do prefer that. But for pure simplicity's sake, I do go with the straight up Americanized version of almost every name. Just so we can get on common ground, right? Like, I don't know if you're gonna go with Thor, Thunar, Tor, any of that, right? And I don't want to have I run into with I'm trying to say Thunar and you're saying Tor and it's just both going over each other's head because we're not listening to each other or whatever the fuck. I just go with the base one, right? I just really
Hmm.
do. Although I will say the only one I find that I seem to be a bit of an outlier is Braggy. I hear a lot of people call it Braggy, but because I know just a smidge of Swedish, just a smidge, it just I always try to read that as Broggy.
That's the way I've always said it, or tried to say it
And
anyway.
I don't know if I'm right or not. I'm probably fucking wrong. But the only part of the reason I do that is because bra means good. Bra to brag. I don't know. It just seems to fit. This could like this is all just in my fucking head, right? Like brag,
Fair.
bra meaning good. He's bragging, broggy. Right? It just to me is like broggy. I just go with broggy. I'm probably fucking wrong. I really probably am. I just that's the one where it's like I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna do it this way because in my head it clicks. And you don't like it. Our audio listeners can't hear this, but just throw up a middle finger for everybody if that's what you think about that. But the rest of them, I just try to go with the Americanized. Odin, Thor, Uller, Scotty, Freya, Frigg, Freyr. Although sometimes I will say Frey.
Yeah, I kind of I'm back and forth on that one too myself. Freya.
Well,
Like it
Freyr or
kind of depends
Frey.
on.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
laziness thing almost, or just kind of
yeah.
whatever comes out.
You know who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Like saying
Um,
the or the. It's like I don't actively choose. I usually prefer one, but occasionally I'll say the other, right?
right. Um, it's funny that you brought up the whole stuff with these names because uh this past weekend, um Cash was trying to read Cash and Jack, my stepson, were trying to read some of the names of the gods, and there were some where they were just butchering them, and then there was the ones where you kind of have to roll the R. So I was trying to get the boys to roll their R's a little bit to say some of the names, and Jack couldn't roll his tongue to do the R's at all. But then just randomly, like Cash said it spot on. And I was like, that right there. And then they tried to say it again and it completely butchered it. I was like, oh.
My kids, and when they try to say Guningagap or Moosfulheim, Niflheim, when we
Oh,
were reading Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology, they're always so excited to start reading it until some of those names come in, and then it's like, not impressed. Like, yeah, I'm sorry. Give it a shot though.
yeah,
So we have a
definitely.
topic today, Beard. We do have a
We do.
topic.
We should probably get to that sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's kind of just really a short topic, in my opinion. Aside from Beard's notes, because Beard's got some notes, but we can give a real quick TLDR on a lot of it here.
Oh, yeah.
But what is the topic?
Okay, our topic is sacrificing, sacrificing,
No,
sacrifices
you're
and
not.
offering.
No, you're not doing it hyperbolic enough. We need that huge polarizing. It is blood sacrifice or blood rituals and animal sacrifice.
Metal.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Satan and demon worshiping. No, really. But it is about or blood offerings, animal offerings, and sacrifices.
Yeah.
So I
So
want to
you,
touch
you
on
want to
this
kick us off?
real. Oh, I do. I really do. Because I
Okay.
want to touch on this real quickly. Because a lot of people, like I said, I started right off with the big scary. Because that's all anybody ever hears in the first place. So a lot of people have just already clicked off. Not really a lot of people. That implies we get listeners. No, but the people who don't understand have already clicked off at this point. But this is for them anyways. I'm going to start off because animal sacrifice sounds like a big scary thing, right? Sounds like a bit. Ooh, hold up. What are these edgelords talking about? Let me tell you about a Christian animal sacrifice or animal offering that happens, I'd say, damn near every holiday, right? So let's imagine
Go
you and
on.
I, we're sitting there, good little Christian boys, right? We're there with mom and dad, grandma and grandpa, and they got their honeyed ham for Christmas, right? And we're sitting around the table. And before we enjoy this meal, what do? Dear Father, I'd like to thank you for this meal and offer you amen. Oh, what do you do? What do we do? A little incantation and a little prayer over this dead animal's carcass that we're about to eat. Huh.
Fair. Very fair. Very
Right
fair.
fucking there it is, people. Y'all make it sound big and scary. We get the big scare. Ooh, animal sacrifice. No, no, dude, eating our honey ham for Yule is no different. Really not. You're just gonna look at us
Or
weird because instead of saying "Dear Heavenly Father," we say Thor or Odin. We're going to and we'll most likely acknowledge the animal more that actually died to sustain us. We'll bring that up. We're not going to pretend like that didn't happen. Other than that, there's no difference.
Very
Now,
much so.
I'm going to get right. I'm going to keep pushing right to the extreme here. There are some
Uh-oh.
people who will
Brace
do.
yourselves, everyone.
Yes, brace yourself. Live, fresh offerings. It's not the blood. Although the blood will often be given as an offering because we can't consume it. It's not anything fucking demonic about it. We just can't eat. We don't drink blood. We don't eat blood. Like humans don't do that shit, right? Like a lot of the organs will go the same route, right? If it's, let's say, for instance, like a lamb, right? The meat, it's just a fresh meal. That's how they did it back in the day. Some people will still do it nowadays, right? And I know it sounds so scary, but have you ever been to a pig roast? You ever been to a pig roast? I've been to a pig roast. I've helped roast a
Been to
pig.
a pig roast, yeah.
What
Yeah.
the fuck's the difference? Right? The
Right.
difference is there's no butcher, right? Well, actually, there's a
Right.
butcher because 99.9% of fucking heathens and pagans out there don't know how to actually like butcher, slaughter an animal properly, and most of us won't want to do it to cause extra harm and suffering to the animal. So we'll usually default to the one in the group who does, if you're in a group who does, right? Right?
Assuming that there's someone within the group who can.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm assuming there is because why the fuck else would there be one there? That was the whole. I'm assuming like that was the plan.
Yeah,
Someone who
that's
is
fair.
right. It's not anything like they're getting their jollies off killing the animals. Like what the fuck? No, no. And most people, by the way, nowadays, like I said, a live one is. I haven't heard of a person. Take that back. I'm in one Discord, and there's one person who did an actual blood offering. He wanted blood to offer. He had his own reasoning for it. I already explained why. That's kind of a bit awkward, but he went and asked the butcher, could he get like it was like a pint or some shit like that, right?
I remember hearing this story, yeah.
Yeah. But then I've heard one other story of someone like actually doing like essentially a fresh meal, right? We'll say that because that's what it is. It's a fresh meal. It
Right.
just doesn't happen on the norm. And I know people are like, well, see, look, you brought up an example. Yeah, I can bring up 100 other fucking examples of people telling me they offered grain, water, a mountain fucking dew, right? Like, I've offered fucking 60 shooters. I don't fucking know. I'm not that many, probably only like 10. I don't pick them up very often for it. But, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I'm just saying, I have actually heard of it happening, but it is rare. Very rare. So,
Now,
bro, now that I
would you like
done
me to talk
scared
about why it's
everyone
rare?
and then just didn't spit on it and kept on going, why don't you take on over, Beard? Why don't you ease it on up and you get to do all the fun stuff?
Okay.
Now that Fro sounds like the weird fucking psychopath.
No, because I will make this important fact to kick us off, to kick into what I'm going to ease in and kind of calm the audience. So
I got 'em all riled up.
once upon a time, oh so long ago, as far as we are historically aware, there was a time where yes, potentially live animals were sacrificed and blood was given more frequently. But there's a reason for that. One, that was then. This is now.
You mean
It can
society and
be.
people change along with our morals and what we think should be acceptable and commonplace?
Oh my God, you'd think that'd be a strange concept,
Oh, okay. Okay. Continue.
right? Um, as technology and things evolve, and the way we go about living our lives change, naturally the way we do things is going to change. So the reason a lot of the time, blood and animals were given was one, they were going to eat it. So they were butchering the animal as part of ritual, and either parts of the animal, like you said, were left for offering or could be left for offering.
Usually the parts humans don't consume very much.
Again, exactly the parts of.
Or if it was, it's the prime creme de la creme and usually just a small portion.
Correct.
Right? You're not giving the entire backstrap, but maybe a bite.
Right. No, and that is as far as we are historically aware. Until some other historical evidence comes out and says otherwise or proves otherwise, that is the running consensus, theory, historical data, historical fact as we know it. As far as I am aware. If something has changed and someone knows differently, by all means, please drop us a link, let us know, correct us, correct me, I guess, more specifically.
Real
Yes,
quick,
Brian.
I just do want to do one little add on there as far as saying, because I keep saying it's parts that we don't consume or can't consume. That is referring to animals. Like if it's like vegetable or something like that, you don't give up the part of the fucking onion. You don't cut off the top of the onion and use that, right? Usually it's more like the part of the onion we consume. It's just a bit different when it's animal giving
Yeah,
its life
yeah,
for us, right? Because it's sacred. We hold
right.
that. We value. We're very animistic religion. Like we hold value in these animals.
Yeah. I mean,
We
because
don't have the Christian mindset of
essentially,
they were put here for us to use as we deem fit. We're not the
right.
master over them. We're just an apex predator. They're not.
It was one of the things when talking with my wife that came up was the whole um concept of like respecting life and everything, because like when she, and this is, sorry, a side tangent, but it kind of pertains to what we're talking about. um One of the things, like one of my wife's early interactions with pagans was similar to mine. Like she knew an entire, full pagan family, and they were against killing of any kind. They wouldn't kill insects, they wouldn't kill animals. The family was vegan, they wouldn't consume animals. um and all kinds of, things to go along with that. um so that was her understanding. So it's a topic that me and my wife have talked about a lot of the time, about killing animals or killing creatures of any kind of living sort. And I kind of explained it to her. It's like, you know yeah, we will respect life, but if I gotta kill something because it's gonna bring harm or, fear into my family, I'm gonna kill the spider on the wall. I'm not gonna
So
take him outside if I don't if I unless I can. Like, I'll go take him outside, but if this is like a venomous, poisonous spider that's sitting there, I'm probably gonna kill it. Um,
I've had to do it once, right? Like I'm not sure if I brought this up, but the story of when I lived on like a little. We joked around and called it a farm, but it's just we had a bunch of animals, really. But we had like fucking 20 some odd chickens, right? Well, we ended up with two roosters. One of the roosters started turning into an asshole, right? And we had some ducks too. I'm not sure if anyone know, like if you guys are in the know about how male chickens and ducks especially are fucking bad, treat the females. They're very
mm,
aggressive and they're a very non-consensual type of animal. Very.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, they get mean
I
too.
have,
Like I said, they're very aggressive. Uh, well, the one was taking it to a whole nother level, and it's like, all right, Mister Rooster, you got to go. Like, to protect my flock, you got to go. Right? The other rooster is doing a fine job. You're not. So, had to fucking take him out, and I'm like, what do you do? You make it quick as you can, right?
right, and that's you're not just doing it blindly at that
Yeah, I
point.
wasn't just going out there
There's,
having fun. Like, hey, look at this target practice. It was like, well, I had to,
yeah,
it had to be done, and it's something you don't do lightly, right? Well, I
right,
mean, a lot of hunters will know exactly what we're talking about, right? As much as a lot of hunters will brag about getting the big bucks and all the the spikes, and they're looking at all these antlers. Most of them aren't just out there just slaughtering, right, for the sheer joy of killing an animal. Like, I'm sure there's a few.
right.
You can always find the oddities
Well,
whenever you're looking for them.
that's true. I mean, there is always, your one-offs and stuff like that that will, they're killing for the pleasure of killing, which
Yeah,
is,
they're calling it sport for a
uh,
reason, right?
right. I mean, I don't want to say that there's trying to think of how to say this without making it sound like I'm giving them a free pass, because it's not necessarily that I'm giving them a free pass. It's like, you know, to each their own, because again, I don't know how that person lives, what that person's beliefs are. I can't judge them for, slaughtering random harmless creatures that would
Well,
do
and
no
it's
harm, but at the same
and
time,
we're using the term slaughter, right? And that's a bit hyperbolic because that's a technical
true.
term. We're using it as a technical term because that's what you do. That's what the act of killing an animal, you're slaughtering the animal, right? Technical. It is a bit of a hyperbolic to the average person though, because they're like, oh my god, slaughter, murder, right? Because media wants it that way. Yes.
Man,
Excuse me. Sorry.
why we're being edgy about it.
Well, we're not really being edgy. That's just what it is, right? Or
Right.
we're trying to not get too edgy about it. But when we do say this, like, we also, do you know what happens during an actual like sport hunting competition? What's done with all the meat? I don't. But I would be very surprised if there's not something set up to make sure the meat at least gets consumed. At the very least, the meat. I would be very shocked if there's not something like that. Not to mention, most hunters like the meat, right? But we're talking about sports people. I'm assuming they're bagging their fucking 8th deer for the season, right?
Right.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I don't know. I did say I don't know. I'm starting off with I don't know that, but it's a very safe assumption that there's something like that in a way, because a lot of people, they're not joking also on the other aspect when they're like hunting some animals as part of like conservation in its own right.
Mm-hmm.
They do mean that.
Because sometimes you have those aggressive predatory species, or those species that get introduced that don't have a predator, then flourish, and then start bringing harm to other species. I think it's most common with fish, from my understanding. Like if fish are introduced to a biome where they don't have a predator, that they can become real bad, because they're like
super invasive.
There was, I forget which one of the Great Lakes has a fish that was introduced, but they had to do some mass fishing to get them out or something like that. I forget what it was.
It's the carp. It was Lake Michigan. It came up through Mississippi.
Yeah, that was it.
It was the Asian carp or the snakehead. One of the other. They're both worried about it. Both coming up through the Mississippi.
Yeah.
The snakehead was oof. Anyways, so yeah, that is a bit of our touch on animal sacrifice, right? And we led with our best foot forward, right? The most scary.
Exactly.
Let's bring it back. Let's remove that first part of the word. Sacrifice, right? What is just sacrifice? Because that is another hyperbolic word. Because nowadays, what it means versus what it used to mean are different. It really is, right? Back in the day, it used to mean to make sacred. You sacrificed something. Sacrificed it. Sacrificed. See? Yep. Straightforward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, it usually means to give up something or someone, right? It's more of a loss type inclination. No. It has a loss meaning behind it as well, right?
Right.
So a lot of times when you would read in the past when they're talking about like different sacrifices, depending when and who meant it or who said it, it's not necessarily guaranteed they were always talking about necessarily killing, right?
Right.
Nowadays, a lot of pagans, when we use the term sacrifice, will usually mean it more in I'm giving something up. Or I'm going to, because an offering can be a sacrifice, right? Matter of fact,
Mm-hmm.
I would say,
absolutely.
I would say that all sacrifices are offerings, but not all offerings are sacrifices. Right?
I would agree with that statement.
Because in my opinion, and bit anecdotal, but from what a lot of people, a lot of pagans I've seen use it, when we use the term sacrifice, we just mean to give something up, that had some sort of value behind it to us, even if that value was just our desire for it. But
Right.
usually, which was a great desire. For instance, well, we'll say right now I'm fucking dying for an energy drink. Right? I don't know why they're just hitting me.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been drinking them, but I'm doing really good on that. By the way, I'm like 3 months good into like one a week, if that. But right now it's
awesome.
fucking killing me, and I would love an energy drink right now. So you know, it would be a hell of a sacrifice for me to go to the store, buy one, open it
And then
up,
offer it.
be able to smell that wonderful smell as I opened it up, and just pour it right in that bowl and set that fucking empty can down. That's now to other people, they're laughing at me like you didn't give shit up right there, right? That's an offering at best, right? But that's because, like I said, to me, I also include our desires and intents. I would really want that. Another good example for a sacrifice is when I place things on my altar to be an altar piece. It does not come off my altar. It now belongs to my altar. I have sacrificed that to my altar with minimal exceptions, right? So, for instance,
Right.
like when I did take things off my altar this weekend to go host the ritual, right?
Mm-hmm.
But,
Which makes sense to do.
right, all that stuff's right the fuck back on my altar. It's not going anywhere, right? I'm not going to take off my little bowl, my bowlie. Is not going to all of a sudden become a mini cereal bowl. Period. Like, that's just how that works. I have a lighter, for instance. That lighter, I bought it because it's got ravens on it. That lighter is used to light my offering candles. Period. My altar candles. Period. Candles on the counter? No, we have other lighters. That is for that only. Period. Right.
Right.
Then we do have, let's see, some people will say, I forget what it actually translate to, like the utseta, or the setting out, where they'll do an ordeal, right? They'll consider that a sacrifice. An ordeal is when you put yourself like physically through something. That can also be a sacrifice, through your time and I don't want to say mental anguish because I don't want to like imply that it has to be super anguishing, but it is an ordeal, right? If you didn't feel like you went through an ordeal, if that label doesn't feel like it applied, then you fucking didn't go through one, most likely, right?
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that like an ordeal has to be a bunch of troubling. Sometimes it could be like sitting under a tree for 6 hours, for example. Sitting in one spot for that long is a bit of an ordeal, right? I'm not saying you got to piss your pants while you're there. You can get up and go pee and stretch your legs, but to stay focused and calmed and thinking for that long in one spot, that's a bit of a fucking ordeal, man. That's a shift of work, damn near, right? I mean, 6 hours is a shift of work. Let's be real. It's a short shift, but it's a shift. It's a fucking actual shift. A full, short, but full shift. Sorry, I work 10 hours, so I'm not trying to talk shit about anyone who works 6 hour shifts. I'm really not. I just really wish I would have worked 6 hours, dude. I was honestly almost out at 6 today. I was close to skedaddling early. Yeah. So there are many different types of sacrifices. Like I said, a sacrifice is an offering, but offering's not a sacrifice. So now that we bring that back even further, what is just an offering, Beard?
Well, an offering really can be, I mean, real honestly, just about anything. Kind of like you were already saying with a lot of that. Like, there's no one thing that can be an offering. Like, I've
So what
heard.
about time? Can time be an offering?
I would say time can be an offering. Yes. I
How
mean,
can
much
time be
like
an
you would.
offering?
Well, much like you were mentioning with the ordeals, where you're putting yourself through an ordeal of some sort, giving up as part of an offering. Like today I'm going to dedicate myself to an hour of picking up trash off the highway. Now, someone might say that as an ordeal, but you offering your time to go up and clean nature. I mean, maybe off of a highway might not be the safest or best thing to do, but
I think a good thing to kind of attach, if you are wondering if you're doing an ordeal or an offering, like, this is the question number one you should ask is, were you already going to do this? Or would you have already thought about doing this? Right? So, for instance, going to the gym. You can do your daily workout. You can dedicate it as an offering to Thor, for sure. Hit the weights, bro.
Mhm.
He'd love it. But don't pretend like you didn't already plan on doing that, right? Like, don't act like it's some big ordeal that you're going for a 2-hour gym session when you go to the gym for 2 hours every 4 days. Like, it's not a big deal then, right? Now, someone like my out of shape ass, if I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go fucking slam the weights for 3 hours, Thor, here we go. I'm gonna fucking just beat myself up to start my training or my getting back in shape. Yeah, it's gonna be a bit of a fucking ordeal for me, middle-aged fat dude. Like, yeah.
Mhm. And I think I think that was the best way that you could have put the difference between the two, for sure. Um, I mean, I've heard stories of people as part of ritual or part of offering or part of just doing a prayer for themselves or for someone they care about, offering up a coin, offering up um, a handcrafted object, offering up something that they purchased. Because again, those things, and I think circling back to like your energy drink example, if you went and bought that energy drink, so the time that you spent to work to earn that money that you then spent on that energy drink are all part of that offering because you spent your time doing your job, which earned you the currency to purchase that item. So then pouring that on, adding that as an offering, not only are you offering that beverage that then you cannot drink, and you're giving that up, you're sacrificing that, you're going without that, and then you also spent money, so now you're going on without that money too. Now, energy drinks are what, only a couple bucks, but that's still a couple bucks. That's a couple bucks that you could have used to get something else, or put towards something else, or put towards something else. The time that you spent to work to earn that couple bucks, all part of that grand scheme. And I think, from my perspective, I think that's a concept that a lot of people don't consider when thinking about what they're offering and what goes into the thought process of what you're offering.
I think some
Because
people
for
will
like,
consider the price, but they don't consider the time that they invested to earn that price.
exactly.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you brought that up.
Be it,
Very glad you brought that up.
yeah, because be it that you did your normal, maybe you work a 9 to 5 job, or maybe you do like the whole gig thing where you're going out there being your own boss doing delivery driver stuff or Fivers or something like that. That's still time that you have to do those things to earn that money to get that thing that you then offered up. Now, I think the important thing to remember is that when it comes to offerings of any kind,
Here,
there is
get your elbows off your desk. You're squeaking the shit out of it.
sorry, I and this is probably more my opinion, more so, but there isn't anything. Um, there's no like one set offering. It's whatever offering feels right to you, whatever offering feels like it works for you, what works in what you're trying to do. And
So,
sometimes you have to experiment too.
what about something like
Sometimes
water?
um
It's literally free. You go turn on the tap.
right.
Okay,
So
if not free, damn near close to free, right? Let's be real, people.
right.
A
I
glass
mean,
of
because you're
water's
still gonna
not
have a
kill
water
you.
bill.
Yeah, well, a
You know,
glass of water's not gonna fucking break
it's not
anyone's
gonna
bank.
yeah. Now, with that said, and I think coming from my perspective, so my perspective as a family of 5 with a singular income, and this isn't me trying to be like, oh, I'm poor, but to a point, we are, I make decent money, but I don't, for a family of 5, it's still, our budget gets stretched thin. So for us, when we offer stuff up, we offer up part of our, like yesterday we had our Easter / Rostara, and we offered up some of our Easter dinner as part of the offering. So that was part of the hand that we made, part of the potatoes, our green bean casserole, and then I've been brewing mead, and I offered up mead for the ritual, something that I've put time, effort, and with the help of a coworker, money, to make. Now, there are times where when I'm doing something maybe myself, where I'm doing a little prayer or ritual or offering, where there might not be something that I can go into the kitchen and grab and offer up because I have to think about feeding my family first and making sure that I can feed my kids and I can feed myself and, my wife eats too, and just that we have something that we can eat on.
And you
And,
don't want to give a goofy ass offering, right? Like,
right.
I just want to be like,
So,
I'm out of stuff. Here's an uncooked potato. Like, not
right.
now. Let me preface that. Back in olden times, that random ass one cooked potato was something, right? Our pantries look different from their pantries. If our ancestors saw our spice cupboards, they would have thought we're all fucking kings. I shit you not. Like, literally. I think I already brought this up like 2 weeks ago, actually. Like, yeah, our pantries look different. So when I say a potato, I'm saying it because that's about as fucking cheap as you can get into someone's pantry for just like a random one item ingredient for them to grab, right? So to us, that potato would be something. Because potatoes and onions just knocked all that shit over. Potatoes weren't historically, because they didn't have potatoes back then. But there is instances of onions being offered, like whole onions, right? And if they would have had potatoes back then, they sure as fuck, I sure would have offered up a potato or two. I can almost put money on it, right?
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
But modernly, it'd be awkward to just be like, here's a potato, right? When normally you offer up like a portion of your meal, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if
Now,
I mean, I don't want to down talk. If you do want to give up just like vegetables like that, like let's say you're a vegan or something like that, and a quarter of a potato is literally part of your meal. Yeah, I'm not trying to down talk that. Like that's it. The intent behind it is I've brought this up numerous times. I'm a huge in the intent and symbolism. I really am. I think it's so much. The intent and symbolism's there. I'm not taking that away from you.
right. Now, to circle back to your question of water.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I mean, but these were all good aspects to bring back at least what my answer is going to be for you. I don't know if you'll agree with this answer, Fro, is if in your situation you don't have a beverage that you can offer up, you don't have a soda, you don't have an energy drink, you don't have mead, you don't drink milk, or maybe your budget is just that you only drink water and you have nothing that you can give up, you're maybe that's just your lifestyle too. I personally don't see there being an issue with you using water as part of an offering. So long as that intent is there, there's reasoning behind why you're using the water, and it makes sense for how you're living.
I agree. I brought up water because it's one of the ones where it's like I said, it's damn near free. But it was also like, in the same hand, water is like one of the most essential things for life. So
Absolutely.
you could easily, again, intent and symbolism, and I'm huge into that. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm definitely right there with you. And I do want to throw in a little bit what seems to be working for you. Like if you don't seem to get any responses and just water isn't cutting it for you personally, and you don't think it's working, don't do water then. Try something else, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
If something else isn't working, try water. Maybe come back to the basics. whatever works for you. Like I said, I mentioned, brought it up before at work. I'm a big fan of just my 2 crackers, right? It just works out. I have 2 leftover crackers per packet of crackers when I eat it with my chicken salad. It works for me, and it's worked out well. And I don't know if the Ravens find them in the parking lots, but I don't see crackers all over the parking lot. So seems to be working for
Uh,
everybody.
somebody is clearly eating those crackers.
Either that or the snow is sweeping them up throughout the winter. And throughout this summer, we're going to be like, hold up, why the fuck is there a packet of crackers on the ground every goddamn day?
Well, I guess there's that too.
So,
Now,
with that, Beard, unless you have any big points or last points you want to touch on before we get going, I think we've covered a good majority of all the big scary parts.
There is one more, and I think this one would skirt the line between being a scary part and being a not so scary part. And some of this really, I mean, as far as I know, I don't think any of this is specifically Norse pagan or heathen or anything. I think it's more just general paganism, more into like the magical, maybe even some of the witchcraft.
Oh no,
And
are you gonna say it? He's gonna say it.
Using blood-based magic rituals and blooding of runes, I think would be the closest.
I can touch on one if
For
you want to touch
starters,
on the other.
For starters, none of that has ever made sense to me in any way, shape, or form, nor have I ever found it appealing. And I have read a fair share of different things that I have found. Most of it being on the internet, and I think one book way a long time ago, and I think it was a Satanist-based magic book, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, you want to blood your runes? Sure. It's not from history.
Yeah,
It's not from me. I don't see it. I ran into someone who asked if I blooded my Mjolnir, and it's like, no, I didn't blood my Mjolnir from China. Like, let's be real about this, people here. Although to each their own. If you feel like slicing your fucking thumb, seems like a horrible idea. Actually, no, I can't condone that. Don't slice your thumb, people. But
yeah,
I guess you're gonna prick your finger with a pin to get your blood. You're gonna do it. It's not historical.
Right.
It's not heathen. But I'm not you.
Right. I mean, if you have found some benefit or it works for you, cool, I guess. I have never seen it. I mean, again, not having ever actually done it either, so I can't really speak from any kind of personal experience from attempting it. But they're like, I understand like there's things like blood oaths out there, like let's become blood brothers and the whole. I understand the concept of it and all, but in today's modern society, I'm not going to cut my hand, have you cut your hand, Fro, and shake our hands together, because that's how you spread disease.
Yeah,
for starters.
we know a lot more about pathology and stuff nowadays, and
it's the level of unsanitary. I mean, I don't care if you and I sat there and watched each other wash our hands with bleach before we did it. I'm still not going to do it. I don't care if we've had every medical test under the sun. Still not going to shake my cut bloody hand with your cut bloody hand.
Just not about it, right? And I'm not even being a bitch about like, 'cause my knuckles are all fucking busted right now. I got fucking fingers bloody from the fucking thing splitting from drying out. Like, it's not even that. It's just like kind of gross, right?
Right. Like there's, it goes back to the sanitation stuff. Now, at the same time too, I don't know. I've not looked too deep historically, but I don't think
there's one story. I think there's one fucking story where it's mentioned that someone sliced himself for blood magic. One heathen or Norse story that I know of. and I
Right.
can't even remember it off the top of my head.
And
I do
like
know there's
in
one
terms of like
that I know, at least one.
right, and like in terms of like the whole like blood brother thing and like blood bonds and blood pacts and stuff like that. Most of the ones that I've seen historically aren't like physical contact either. They're few and far between, and most of the time it's here, I'm gonna cut myself, put a little bit in this bowl, you're gonna cut yourself, you're gonna put a little bit in this bowl, and then we're gonna burn an incense around it. Like, I don't even know how historically accurate those are. Like, they could just be fantasized tales again. Like, there's no again, if somebody has a link, it has some kind of historical context and link
Yeah,
to
I'll just be straight
some
up.
by
It's
all
just
means
something
share it.
that's been uninteresting to me, unappealing, and seems. Well, I'm opposed to self harm, so it seems self harmful for the most part. So it's just something I
Right.
haven't looked into outside of a lot of people saying not very accurate. But
Yeah, like I said too, when we first started on this topic of it's never held any kind of appeal to me, interest, or would hold any actual significant value to do anything of that sort in any way, shape, or form. Like,
right,
yeah, it doesn't, like I said, doesn't have that appeal. So
well, beard.
I think that covers the big scary bits of it,
I think that
and then
covers
some.
most of it. Yeah, we'll probably be coming back to talk a little bit more offerings. We just really wanted to hit on like the more hyperbolic parts, honestly.
Yeah.
That's it.
So
See you next week
uh
when we do a live blood
yeah,
sacrifice. No, not really.
yes, we will be
But notice there's no
bringing
cat
in
this week.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening to this episode of Two Pagans in a Pod podcast. We thank you so much for listening. And if you really enjoyed our content and you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, be sure to leave us a like, follow, or subscribe on whatever media of viewing or listening that you've been enjoying this episode on. Additionally, you can always check out a lot of our other content, such as the Modern Norse Library that Fro does here on YouTube, or you can even check out our UPG sharing episodes, which can be found on all medium spectrums that we post on. Additionally, don't forget we always have that segment where we like to share pagan artwork, so be sure to drop us a line via email, or maybe even contact us on Twitter and share with us your art, maybe a poem, or any other kind of medium that you would enjoy us sharing on our podcast, and we'll be sure to get it on the next episode of Two Pagans in a Pod podcast. Thank you guys again so much, and we'll catch you next time.